All right, welcome to the Outlaw Radio Show. My name is Zach Adams, and I pastor a church located just outside of Athens, Georgia. The name of the church is Calvary 316. If you're local, check us out Sunday morning, 10:30. Come in person. If you're not local, but looking for a good Bible teaching church that you can attend digitally online. Again, services at 10:30. We live stream both on YouTube as well as Facebook. The easiest way to get all of this information or links to those sites is just to go to calvary316.com, which is our website, calvary316.com. I'm also joined in studio, if you're new to the show, joined in studio by the man that needs no introduction, Creighton Vaughn. How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I want you to take a
good.
second and kind of explain how this show works to everyone.
So basically the way the show works is I will introduce a topic here in a few minutes, and then it's Zach's job to create a Bible study around that topic. And then we have me as well as a couple of other guys who will then discuss that topic, and sometimes it goes off the rails. Most of the times it goes off the rails. Now, we are streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you have any questions or comments about things that we have said in the show, you can put those in the comment section on either Facebook and YouTube. And I've got a laptop in front of me, so I'm keeping an eye on those. If you have any topics that you'd like us to make an episode out of, you can email me at popecreighton@gmail.com. And that's Pope spelled like the Italian one, and Creighton also spelled like the Italian one. That is Creighton. Good?
Yeah, we're also joined in studio, and if you need to make an adjustment to that camera, Creighton, please do. But we're joined in studio by two of our close friends, joined by Spice Daddy. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. You made me download Twitter recently, and so I downloaded Twitter because you kept sending me this link to this page that inserts Trump into historic pictures.
Dude, it's awesome, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's pretty funny. So I was trying to think of like a Twitter handle, and Spice Daddy unfortunately was taken. So I don't know who you are, Spice Daddy, on Twitter, but you stole my name.
Wait, Spice Daddy's taken?
It was taken. It was taken.
Can't you just add like some letters and symbols to
I
it?
could have, but I wanted the original Spice Daddy tag, and it just wasn't happening for me. Because I'm just now learning the Twitter sphere thing. I'm not going to post anything because I don't post on social media, but I wonder if there's any hot sauce pages out there that I'm missing.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to look.
So
this
Spice
up.
Daddy off. I guess we can't say Twitter. It's X, right?
Yeah,
It's X.
It's Twitter.
It's still Twitter. That's funny. We're also joined in studio, in addition to Spice Daddy, we're joined by
Dear Daddy.
Dear Daddy.
No, it's Chicken Daddy now. I watched the video on Chicken Daddies.
Vinny, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. How's your week going?
Good. Very busy.
Very busy.
Extremely busy.
Well, I'm glad that you could
I
work
almost
us
didn't
in.
make it.
Yeah, almost did. Well, we're glad you did. That's great. And I wanna just let the audience know. Deal Daddy Derek, who's been on the show for the last 2 years or so, good friend of the show. I made mention last week that his little brother had passed away, and we acknowledged that last week and just asked for you guys to be praying for Derek and his family. And Derek sent me a text the other day and said that he had watched the episode and was really touched that we had kind of brought that to the Outlaw Radio family, that people had been praying for him. And so it was a rough weekend. They had the viewing on Friday and the memorial on and Saturday, and it's just we're good friends with Derek's mother, Colette. No mom should have to bury a child. It's just tough. So, but we do believe in a God of all comfort, and just wanted to pass along, I think, from the Kennedy family, thank you for your prayers. Creighton, we have a topic. We actually have a lot of things going on tonight, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get to everything. You have a topic, correct?
I do indeed.
So I have a few things that I got to kind of get out of the way to start with. First, do you like my shirt? The God is Dope shirt?
I do like the shirt. I think it's a little, I feel like it's a little late. Kids say don't use dope.
No. Dope
So
is back in. No.
Is dope back in with the Gen Z?
With the kids. Yeah. Hey, we have a. Oh, by the way, we should acknowledge that we have a studio. We have an audience member sitting in the new audience chair. He was nodding. Yes, that is. Dope has come back around, I believe.
No cap.
You say that he's my age. He doesn't know what Gen Z is about.
Well, the thing is he's cooler than you are. I think he's more. I think he's more connected to what the youths are doing.
Okay,
Creighton,
being
that sure
cooler
be-
than me is not
that
an
sure be
accomplishment.
bussin', man.
Also, I need you to stop. You're 37 or
God
something.
be lit.
God be
They don't
What's
use
funny
lit.
is
It's
that when
bussin'.
I said he's my age, and what does he know about the kids? He kind of did like this. I mean,
So
like,
I
you
told
couldn't hear it on the.
didn't
but it
I
was
tell
funny.
the story about the God is Dope shirt like a month, maybe 2 months ago, about the refined black lady on the airplane that told me about this?
Yes.
So
You told me the story. I don't know if you said
I don't
it
know
or
if
not
I actually
already.
did I tell the story?
No.
So I was flying back from Philadelphia. I went and spoke at a pastor's conference. And so I'm sitting on the plane. I get to my chair early. I got stuck in the middle, which is terrible. Anyway, this refined middle-aged black woman came. She sat down next to me. So we've not taken off. And so I talk to everybody. Like, that's just kind of my thing.
Do you really?
I do like talking to people, especially strangers. I find it interesting. So she sits down, and again, a very refined middle-aged black woman. I said, "So are you coming or going?" You know, good opening line. And she goes, "Actually, kind of a little bit of both." I said, "Well, that's cool." She lives in Atlanta, but she works in Philadelphia, so she commutes every week. She comes in Monday morning, she leaves Friday. This is her routine. She's got a husband and kids that live in Atlanta, and so anyway, we started talking. I was like, "Well, what would get you to move to Philadelphia?" And she was like, "Oh, it was a dream job. I just couldn't turn it down." It ended up being like HR or something, which is like, I don't know if that's a great dream job. This story's going to go on forever, so I should speed it up.
Agreed.
I told her, I was like, "Well, I'm kind of in the same business." She goes, "Well, what is that?" I was like, "Well, I pastor a church. I'm in human relations as well." and she goes, "That's dope." And I paused. Again, I thought dope had gone out a long time ago. But this refined middle-aged black woman, who is very much more connected to what's going on than I am, used the word dope. So I asked what any rational middle-aged white man would do in such a situation.
Is dope back?
I said, is dope a thing now? Can we say that? Is it back? And she goes, "Oh, absolutely." She goes, "In fact, there's this new clothing label, God is Dope, where they have these shirts and hoodies and stuff."
I see him all the time at work. so-
Do you really?
Yeah.
Mostly with black people though.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I did learn that. So I'm like, I've never heard of this. God is Dope. That is such a cool clothing label. I said, I will go and find a shirt and I'm going to wear it on a Sunday morning. And she goes, that's hilarious. That's awesome. I was like, well, you need to check the live stream out. And when I wear it, you need to just drop in the comments section, "That's dope," and I'll know who you are. It'll just be between you and me. We had, and at some point I did tell her, like, "Hey, as soon as we take off, I'm going to stop talking because I'll go to sleep for the rest of the flight. So I'm just getting this out right now. You're not going to have a chatterbox next to you for the next 2 hours. This is just pre-flight, Zach. As soon as we take off, I'm gone." Which, Creighton, you've flown with me.
It's weird.
Yeah, I sleep the entire flight. I will fall asleep before we take off, and I won't wake up till we land. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird. So anyway, so I bought this shirt. I finally got around to buying the shirt. And Sunday morning, this Sunday, I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this." I even showed Jessica. I got it in on Friday. I was like, "I'm going to wear this on Sunday." She goes, "You sure?" I said, "Oh, yeah, fine." But that, "are you sure?" rang in the back of my head a little bit. So I put it on. I do my routine, put it on, say goodbye to everybody. Jess is jumping in the shower. I grab my keys, load up the truck. I jump in the truck. I get halfway out of my neighborhood, which is not very far. And I'm like, "Dadgummit." I turn around. I drive back home, get back into my driveway, go back through the bathroom, back to the closet. Jess is like, "What are you doing?" And as I'm taking the shirt off, putting on a polo, I just look at her and I'm like, "I'm not a youth pastor anymore." God said I can't wear this shirt today. I don't think the older people will get it. God is a drug? That was what was going through my mind. God is dope? I might as well had worn a shirt that said, "God is fentanyl." And it's like,
I would have liked to have seen all of that happen.
thank you.
That's because Justin's a pot stirrer.
Yeah, so I
No,
just
I'm not.
decided.
I just like sitting back and watching the
Listen,
world burn.
Zach Adams is.
That's what a pot stirrer is.
No, pot stirrer is the one that's burning.
Hey, listen,
Okay.
listen. Zach Adams has been a pot stirrer his whole life,
Can confirm.
and I felt that was pretty big of me. Honestly, I was like, I will reserve these type of things to Outlaw Radio, which is why I'm
That's
rocking.
real mid, Zach.
God.
That's mid.
Thank you, Spice Daddy. I need to. Okay, so that actually had nothing to do with what I was going to talk about. So I got a text message, Creighton. You don't know about this.
Oh, that's the third. Hold on.
I got a text message today.
I'm cutting to me. That's the third time today you've started a sentence, and my immediate thought is, oh no. That's happened 3 times today now.
I am proud of you going to the gym today.
Thank you.
You want to elaborate on any of that, or just let that lie?
Oh, I'm not going to elaborate now.
Okay. So I got a text message. You have no idea how helpful the last Outlaw Radio episode was. Thank you so much for what you do. So I got this text message today. And you want to take any guess as to who this was?
There's
get
a
it.
lot of people.
You'll never get it. Roland Jock.
Oh.
Roland. So Roland,
Rolo.
I've been, which by the way, what's up, bud? What's up? I've been friends with Roland for, when I started as a youth pastor in 2003, one of my first counselors, and he was with me the entire time.
For the record, you were 20. That was 20 years ago.
I was 21, so it was more than 20 years ago. But Roland was with me the whole time. The entire decade that I was in youth ministry, Roland was like my main middle school boys counselor, and both of his boys ended up going through both the middle school and the high school. Roland, a dear friend. I do this because he cut off his finger, so that was kind of our middle school like
On a table saw.
gang symbol. You know, like what's up? Mm-hmm. It was an ode to Roland. Yeah, you're doing that, but no one can see you. You gotta
I'm
switch
doing
the
it.
camera.
I'm doing it out of
just pure
solidarity with
respect.
Roland.
Yeah, okay, I got you. I understand. I understand. But so Roland sent me the text, and I was like, that's sweet. That's very kind. And I had no idea that Roland even listened or watched the show. So you get these type of things, and you're just like, wow, that's such an encouragement.
Yeah, he
that's
had mentioned to me after I taught a couple of Sundays ago. He mentioned that he watches
He
the show.
came out, right?
Yeah,
Was he there?
he came out, and so did his youngest son, who I grew up with, Cody, which is really great because it was the first time I got to meet Cody's son, who's named after Roland, so Roland the second, and Cody's wife, Melinda.
Okay,
so it was a really good time.
So let me just, again, if Roland is watching or listening to this, I have been gone from Calvary Chapel Stone Mountain for 10 years now, and I mean we spent then 10 years of ministry together, and then I left, and I'm not far away. I'm like 45 minutes away. Do you know how many times Roland has come out to Calvary 316 to hear me preach? 0. 0 times. Creighton preaches once. Who shows up? Roland. So I'm just, I'm not sore about that at all.
Hey, I got a lot of good reviews. It was a good Bible study.
I'm just pointing that out. I want to follow up on last week's episode. The reason I bring this up with just kind of 2 more thoughts that I've been chewing on. So very quickly, I'm going to throw it over to Spice Daddy. Just give a quick recap of last week, Noah, the rainbow flag, just kind of everything that we ended up.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I completely forgot what we
I
talked
saw your face. I was like, I'm going to throw him
I
a bone
remember
there.
talking about Bigfoot beforehand, but nothing afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah, so we just kind of went over like I guess like the rainbow and like I
You really have no
remember-
idea what we talked about last week.
Man, I get in the zone. I just start talking and
You really have no idea. You're spinning so hard. This is hilarious.
it's the Holy Spirit that was speaking through me.
This is
and so
your.
as
I got you, Zach.
This is a week ago, and you're. That's funny.
For the record,
That's
it
why
has
you don't
been
have
a
the
long-
Spice Daddy handle. That's why.
For the record, it has been a long week.
it has been a long week. My job is
Not to listen or remember.
yeah, pretty much. I remember certain aspects of things, and it just I don't remember what I said at all. I remember.
That's how authentic this
I remember
show is.
talking.
That's how authentic this show.
Completely unscripted.
No,
I remember talking about
for sure.
I remember talking about the
Unscripted and
rainbow
not remembered.
flag, the history of the rainbow flag, and that was about it.
You're working hard right now. I mean, you're digging deep.
I think we talked about we talked about the Nephilim and demons and stuff and giants but I don't remember anything else.
Okay, so homosexuality came up, and it became like this thing. Like, can you imagine? Like, we talked about the idea of taking what is a biblical symbol, like Genesis 9,
the rainbow.
like Genesis 9, God instituted the rainbow, like for a very particular reason. Like, this is my sign, and it's like, of all of the things for this particular sexual movement, to like, we're gonna take this and make it our thing. Like, can you imagine if they took the crescent moon of Islam? Like, you'd think that would go over well, and yet somehow Christians have been like, oh, I guess it's okay, you know, which is indicative of like how puny we've been about the culture war. And like, somehow we got convinced in the 90s. I think, again, it was during a season where seeker friendlyism kind of took over Christianity, and so like being evangelical kind of took a back burner.
Everything was very live and let live.
Yeah,
don't affect other people's thoughts or lives.
Right, and like we want to reach these people. We don't want to offend these people. We need to have peace with these people, and the furtherance of the gospel message of Jesus. And it's like, and again, maybe I'm just way too deep into Judges, because it's like it's a spiritual warfare, and if you know anything about war is about winning and losing. Like, you either win or you lose. And like, somehow we thought, oh, we're in a spiritual battle, but like,
Let's coexist.
And like, let's not ruffle any feathers, with the idea of like, oh, they just want to be left alone. And yet what's interesting about the gay lobby is that they're actively doing everything right now that they told us would be bigoted if we did. And I saw a story today that just so highlighted this interesting thing of like, we've gotten played. So if you and a lot of you guys were kind of all within the same 10-year age bracket, but you know, it was as soon as gay marriage was legalized, you know, because that was, everyone was fighting hard for the right to marry, to marry the person that they love, et cetera, et cetera. And the moment that happened, the next day, it was like, okay, well, we're married, we should be able to adopt children. Mm-hmm. And the Christians, like, just somehow completely rolled over on that. Where we're like, well, okay, you can adopt kids. Yeah, we have a biblical belief that, you know, a child needs to be raised by a mother and a dad because, you know, the essence of God, we're created in his image, the El Shaddai, that you need the masculine and the feminine, and thus that's represented in marriage, and that children, again, genetically the byproduct of this particular union. Like, somehow we like vacated that, and it was like, well, we just have so many kids that just need to be loved, right? And it's like, well, it's just two people in love, and like, we would rather a kid be with two loving parents, even if they're the same sex, than in the foster system, which is admittedly terrible. Somehow we got railroaded into that, right? And we just like, okay, that's fine. It's New Hampshire, Massachusetts, I forget the state, but this is happening right now, that a Catholic heterosexual couple that can't have kids has been denied the ability to adopt. Why? Because of their positions on homosexuality. So guess what? The gays have no problem saying, hey, you know, your beliefs, you shouldn't be able to have access to children. And what did we do? Oh, here's all the kids. Like, we are stupid. And it's time for Christians to wake up and be like, they're fighting against us. And they don't want peace. They want domination.
Isn't that what sin is, though?
Oh, for sure. Oh, no, we can get into
sin, not just like homosexual. It seeks to expand, because sin is anti-God. And so
You're right on.
If you're sinning in one thing, it's just going to expand and expand and expand and expand and take over your life
Because it's a
and the lives of
warfare.
others. Yeah.
You are either fighting it or you're losing because it's going to fight you. And I think somehow like the biggest lie over the last 20 years to Christianity was that they just want to coexist. You believe what you believe, they can believe what they believe, just have equal rights, and that's fine. There is an active militant march against Christian held beliefs by the homosexual left.
And I think
And if we don't wake up about it and actually gain a backbone and stand, they will roll over us. I don't want to use a comparison because I don't want to like make an equivalency, but like we are rapidly moving and light speed into what I'm now going to call the banana republic states of America.
Do you think do you think Christians not pushing back is a byproduct of legalism within the church and taking it too far, saying not just fighting against sin, but saying you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that, and then people taking a step back, but they took too far of a step back?
Yeah, I don't know if it's legalism. I do think it's more rooted. That's a great question, by the way.
Because like when I'm thinking like Puritans kind of thing, where you can't do anything that or that deep Baptist thing where you can't dance, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it just goes like people get fed up with the legalism, so they go the complete opposite way, and then that just kind of
Which is anarchy.
right. And you think that's a byproduct?
Yeah,
of
but
that?
historically, that's historically like I get what you're saying, but I don't think historically that's rooted in the actual facts.
I mean, it kind of is.
Well, okay. Well, you had Puritanism as part of like the founding of America, but it takes us like 250 years to get to now. Like
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah, but
slower.
you had steps in between. Like you had a good example would be like alcohol consumption. You had what was it the amendment number?
You had prohibition. You had
you had
suffrage.
prohibition, and
No, it's
like
not 30.
the whole country where you start legalizing. I guess for me is like, why do you expect a non-Christian government basically to have? And I hate using their terminology of forcing religion on these people, but I think there's a fine line between religion and morality and what's good for the whole, but like forcing legalistic morality on people like you have with prohibition.
Okay, let me take a step back to answer your question. I think beginning in the late 80s and into the 90s and then I think it kind of meant like there's maybe a 25-30 year period of what we would call the seeker friendly movement, like the emergence of the seeker friendly movement. Christians like and the goal of seeing people get saved. The strategy was we need to really back off standing on moral truths and absolutes because it alienates the person that we're trying to reach without giving without ever being able to get to them to start with. So let's not talk about these things. Let's push these things to the background because we're going to try to reach the culture. And which is why there were so many Christians that were repelled against the moral majority, that idea, because there was a counter movement to that, which was like, we're losing our country, let's try to legislatively fix this all. But what's happened is we just lost on every front. I think the pursuit, keep your beliefs to yourself, let's not upset people, we don't want to be called bigots, the fear of rejection under the guise of evangelism, like backdoor evangelism, let's make the sinner feel comfortable in church by not saying anything offensive. That's created a generation of Christians that have gotten railroaded.
I have a question.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making sense? That have gotten railroaded because it's like we got programmed to not fight back.
And I guess
Because
that's what
fighting back was bad.
I guess the question I have, and I come from a more libertarian stance on stuff, but within the Christian realm, I think we should tell people they're sinning, we're here to warn them, and the destruction that's coming. But like legislatively is where I have a hard time. Like, how do you legislate the morality of stuff? And with like homosexual marriage, for instance, I think marriage is a church thing. It's not a government thing.
I know. I got you. I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, and this is what I'm kind of, because I come from the same libertarian bent of like, hey, let's have the laws protect me from you, and you from me, and leave it there. Like, that is the libertarian stance. Like, that law should exist to just protect people from other people, and not that person from themselves. But here's the reality, and this is what we're saying. Okay, well, Christians shouldn't be legislating their morality. But you know what we've just found? Christians step out of legislation. The secular world is legislating their morality.
Okay, so I have a question.
And they're going to use legislation to cram their morality down our throat. So you either take a stand and say, you know what, I want the laws I live by to reflect my morality, because that's what you're going to do. And we can fight that out in the public square. But like, we rolled over, and now what's happened? There's a tidal wave coming.
Serious question, right here.
Yeah.
Does it matter? We lose this war. We know we lose the war.
That's a bigger question.
I know that's
we've
a bigger
talked
question,
about.
but I don't. I have a hard time, personally. We've talked about this. Caring about what heathens do in a heathen country.
Okay, I totally agree with you.
I don't care what laws come down from. I don't care.
Okay, let me give you some context of what I'm trying to say.
Okay, please, because I have a hard. I feel like
I'm with you.
Spent 20 minutes on this now, and I don't care what they do in a heathen country.
Okay,
the whole country's going to burn soon anyway.
It's not about. Okay, well, first you should care because their soul's going to hell. Like, you should care about your fellow man because Jesus died for them. So,
I care about my fellow man. I don't care about the laws that the government makes. I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive.
And I'm not. The point of my rant here is not about changing laws or legislativeness. I'm just trying to emphasize the reality that we have stepped away from the fight. So what is the Christian fight? The Christian fight is not about changing laws and whatnot. That's not what I'm advocating. That's not even what I'm bringing up. We've kind of turned into that a little bit because it illustrates an issue. What I'm saying is that, like, we have vacated a fight in the public square. Like, actually standing for truth and calling a spade and saying, this is what's going on. And I'll give you an example. This is a great segue. People will say, oh, well, you shouldn't, like, how would Jesus treat the homosexual? How would Jesus deal with the gay person? Well, okay, let's answer that. Jesus would love them. Jesus would care for them. But understand, for them to go to heaven and for Jesus to work in their lives, this is what Jesus would do. He would say, let go of your life and follow me. That's what he would say. That's what he would say to the homosexual. In the same way, I thought about this today, in the same way that the rich young ruler came, said, I got everything together but this one thing. And Jesus isolated the most important thing in his life was his wealth. And he says, sell everything you have, let go of that identity, and follow me. And he left. What would Jesus say to the homosexual? I want you to follow me. I want you to let go of it. This identity, I want you to let go. And Christians refuse to be that blunt. Every person that Jesus works in, there is a moment in time where he says, you have to let go of that life and follow me. Matthew, Peter, James, and John, all of the apostles, the apostle Paul, right? Every person in Scripture, there's a moment in time where it's like, hey, that life is rooted in sin and is destructive, and I'm calling you to follow me, to let it go and follow me. Is that conversation happening in the Christian world? We're not taking a stand on something that we should. Forget about laws, forget about all of that. I'm just talking about, like, we're afraid of the consequences of speaking the truth about something that is black and white. That's a reality.
I don't disagree with you. My question, I think, goes further than that. Because it will be, in the coming years, we still continue to lose this fight. It gets harder and harder to say those things. So how do you think the Christian should respond now? Because I'm not going to be the guy that goes out and yells at people in front of Target about the sin, which I know you're not saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm using extremes.
But that's a distortion of what I'm saying.
I'm using extremes because that is an easy place for people to land after hearing what you just said.
I think it's a distortion of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not easy for them to land there.
Yeah.
My question is,
again, I think that's the tactic of the enemy.
I would agree
Yeah.
with you, but I also want to say it because it's something that people actually do.
I understand.
So that's obviously not. That's not the way. Yelling at people in the public square, like literally yelling people at people in the public square, is not the way to go.
You shouldn't yell at anyone, honestly.
I disagree. There are people who you should yell at. But my question is, what should the Christian do? What should Christians do? Because I'm not a big fan of legislating morality. I don't think that actually works. I think that would be great if we were in charge, but I don't think we are, and I don't think we ever will be.
I think the problem with
My question is, what do we do?
I think the problem that mainly like I see with legislative morality is that it forces. If you tell a child what to do, they're going to want to do the opposite. If you outlaw something, they're going to do the opposite.
Okay.
And I think especially with sin, like I think with legislative morality, you have to change the culture. That's the only way. If the culture changes,
that doesn't matter. The culture's not going to change. The world's going to burn. That's not going to happen.
I don't think so. In that article,
that's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
I
not.
think we see that.
You don't know the future.
I think we see that the culture does change.
Yes, I do.
With the article that Zach sent us,
Which we'll get to. I think it segues.
Yeah, and I think the article that Zach sent us to tell us to read through, I think it's a good indicator of the younger generations, the younger culture, seeing the downfalls of the direction of the country and moving back towards the gospel.
Let me throw one wrinkle in because I'm going to address something.
I do know the future. I've been told the future.
Pause.
I know the future.
I got you. This is what's interesting though, because because I'm a pre-tribulational rapture guy. What's funny is I'll get accused of like you're an escapist, like you're longing to just escape.
Yeah.
But what's funny is like no, actually, I long. Like the rapture's imminent. Could come at any day, any time, any hour, whatever. I'm missional in the sense of like, I'm here for a reason, and until the trumpet blows, there's a reason. I don't know. I know the future. I don't know the timing of the future, and that might be my clarifying statement.
I get what you mean by that. Yeah.
Because you look at what's happening in America right now. Well, there's one really large trajectory that seems most likely, and that is really probably kind of terrible. Mm-hmm. And could be a precursor to end times events, or not. And we're another 1,000 years away, and China takes us all over, and like we have no idea how this plays out. You don't know. So like, or I can say that Christians start taking a stand for what's right. Like legislation can be one of two things. It's either a minority's attempt to impose their morality to a majority, or it's the actual reflection of the majority. Mm-hmm. I think the dirty trick is that a lot of our legislation is the minority trying to enforce their morality on the majority because they convinced the majority to shut the heck up. I don't think our laws are reflecting the actual person living day to day. That's a whole debated thing. That's another topic. But what I'm saying is when you look at it, hey, do I still believe that God could use America? That there could be a revival? Sure, I hope so. I long for it. It's either that or the rapture. Those are the two things I'd like. Either take us home or use us to change the world. Not because I'm longing for the second coming of Jesus and I'm a preterist. Because I believe in the end it gets real bad and I know how this plays out. Does that mean it plays out like that in my lifetime or the lifetime of my kids or even my grandkids? No, because I'm not God. And there's a reason that that's left vague in regards to its timing. What my job should be is standing on truth, because you asked the question, well, what do? We need to be more bold to stand on truth. I don't care about the politics of it, but I do care because I sense it myself. There are things that you want to tweet out that are true. And you're like, nope. Why? Because of a future job I won't be able to get. Like, we're afraid of the consequence. There are so many Christians that are not standing for truth or speaking truth for one reason. The world has made it very clear there's a consequence to it. And until we say, to hell with the consequence, I'm called to King Jesus, and it's time to stand on the truth even if it costs me, we will make no difference in the world.
I agree with you.
And I think, and the only reason I bring homosexuality, there's a whole lot of other issues we can't, it's just because of how stark an illustration it is. Like, you can just see the playbook and how it's worked its way out. Vinny, you haven't been involved in this conversation at all. I want to include you as quickly as we can here. Because I do want to get to the article because I think it segues. Can you pull it up so you can read it in a minute?
I say what I want everywhere.
That-
So I have a pretty big social media presence, and I'm not afraid to be controversial. I actually enjoy it. And I've started these topics on my page and been attacked by the homosexual community. And at the end of the day, all they really want, like when you get one-on-one and you get out of the comments with these people and you get them, like they'll usually take the conversation in a private messenger if you stick to the facts. You can very easily start burning down their arguments and their BS agenda because it's not based on facts, it's based on emotions. So when you start sticking to the facts, very quickly they stop the public conversation under the post that was made and they move it to private messenger. And once you get them there and you show them that you care about them and you show them that you love them, no matter what, like you're living in sin, that's your choice, not mine. You don't get to attack me because you're living in sin. I'm going to love you regardless of your sin. Eventually, if you can get out of the homosexual agenda and get on one-on-one with these people, very quickly you can start showing them that you love them, and that's all they want. That's why they're crying out. That's why they're putting on this really weird act. That's why they've grasped onto this one thing that people pay attention to them for. And so when they realize that there's a God that loves them for who they are and not what weirdo mental illness they portray on their social media account, eventually they start to see Jesus.
Yes.
And once they see Jesus and they have the Holy Spirit in their life, you can get them to that point. And I have, and it's amazing.
So I will add, and I think you kind of brought something up that should be clarified. Just in the same way that I don't think any of us feel like we're represented by what we might call like militant Christianity.
Right.
We should be acknowledged that I don't think the entire homosexual community should be lumped in and identified with the very vocal militant part
Right.
of that particular movement. Now, they happen to be very vocal, and that's why like I really actually appreciate. So there's a on Twitter, gays against groomers,
Yeah.
and
I've
it's
seen
a whole they got banned, and it's a complete organization run by gay people that are looking at what is being done in the name of their movement against children. They want no part of it, and they want to be vocal against it, and they're raising money to fight it. And there's like this whole weird movement going on within that community to drop the T. I don't know if you've heard about that. You know, the
Really?
LGB gay, I don't know the acronym, but like to drop the T, because it's like,
transgender.
again, lesbians and gays and bisexuals all acknowledge gender.
Right.
It's like kind of a fundamental idea. Like Dave Chappelle has a funny sketch about this. But then, you know, the T, like there's an actual, like, this is a different thing that we're not like kind of down with.
They're trying to bifurcate the movement.
I believe we have a comment that's been online that we want to bring in. Is that what's happened?
No, it was a comment we needed to get off. It was spam.
Oh, we had a spam comment.
We had a Nigerian prince.
Oh, really?
Oh, he'll
Something
catch that
very
check
similar,
for
yeah.
140 million that
Are
I
you
just
sure
got.
that was spam? Because I've been texting him recently.
It looked like Indonesian or something.
Okay, all right. Let's transition to and again, Creighton has a topic for tonight
It's not going to happen.
that is not going to happen, which is a bummer because it was actually based on the Bible study
This past Sunday,
This past
yeah.
Sunday about throwing fleeces, and you kind of had brought it up, said, "Hey, you think this would be interesting, I think it would be great. So we'll punt it to next week.
Oh yeah, we got a show next week. Why
Yeah,
not?
we got a show every week, so we got to fill content. We're all right with that. I ran across an article, the Christian Post, in their living section, Sunday, August 13th. So it was just this Sunday. I think when I sent it to you guys yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last night.
I read this article and it blew my mind, really. Again, because we're trying to like understand what's going on in our culture. And the hard thing with that is that I think often we lean on the world to tell us what's going on in the world, but the world is filled with lies. So there's always an agenda to the world, which is one of the things, and I'm learning this more and more, like Pew Research, Rasmussen, like secular companies, like there's an agenda to it. And I'm not sure that when it comes to cultural things, how much I should place a lot of weight into it. But this article is titled, and I'm going to let Justin read it in just a second. Half of Gen Zers say their life was transformed by the Bible's message. This is a study that was done. This is by Ryan Foley, who's a Christian Post reporter. Interesting. Justin, can you read this article, and there might be a few moments,
I'll summarize it. It's long.
or work your way
thing.
through it.
Yeah, I'll just kind of summarize certain parts that I think kind of grasp it. The first paragraph, it just says, a new report reveals that while younger generations of Americans are less religious and engaged in the Bible than their older counterparts, roughly half of them credit the Bible's message for transforming their lives. And it kind of goes through, they surveyed 2,761 adults from January 5th to the 30th. It's got the standard margins of error.
Let me read a section real quick. Let me
Okay.
jump in, because this is what I found interesting. Because again, so what hasn't been done that this study did is it subcategorizes Gen Zers into an older block and a younger block. Because again, we're trying to figure out some things.
Yeah, that's what I found interesting about this.
Which we'll get to in a second. So like, and you and I identify with this, and probably Vinny, is that we sit. I'm an 83 birth. You're a what?
85.
85.
83.
83.
Yeah. We fit in what's called the Xennials.
We're stuck.
Gen X and Millennial. in
Yeah,
between.
we're like right in the middle, and so we're kind of our own unique category. And so as these things progress, you start looking at like, okay, you're taking 10-year blocks of time, but we have lived through a really interesting period of time.
Right.
Where things have changed so fast. Like Barack Obama ran 2008 as a marriage traditionalist. Okay, just think about that for a moment. 2008. Marriage is between a man and a woman, and that was Barack Obama. Okay, so like, and we've lived through a time where the Republicans were staunchly pro-war, whether it be Afghanistan or Iraq. We were very interventionist. And then today, like, everything has flipped, and it's the liberals want us in Ukraine, and there's a huge conservative backlash to that, where Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, is the only politician out there saying we need to make peace. People are dying, like anti-war. Like the right is gone anti-war, and the left has gone pro-war. Like weird things are happening. Okay, so we're trying to understand what that means. And then the pandemic had its own thing. It's been a weird time. So this study examines subgroups within Gen Z, and that's what makes it interesting. And I'll just read this one paragraph, and then Justin, you can jump back in. It says the newest installment of the annual survey examined the beliefs and practices of Gen Zers, comparing and contrasting them to older generations. The report shows that although higher share of respondents belonging to Gen Z identify as agnostics, atheists, or quote nons, 34%, the older generations, 58% of Gen Zers respondents identify as Christians. And then it continues. Additionally, Gen Z has the lowest frequency of Bible use among the 5 generations examined. I'm looking for this one particular part of the article.
Be 2 paragraphs below where you were reading.
Jump in wherever you are.
Basically it says the share of Bible users rises with each generation from youngest to oldest, with 33% of millennials, 39% of Gen Xers, 46% of baby boomers, and 48% of elders fitting this definition.
I found the paragraph.
Okay.
The contrast between the subgroups within Gen Z also applies to religious identification. Non-Christians constitute a majority of the older members of Gen Z. So older members of Gen Z,
Meaning born in like 97 or
it's
around there.
52%. While being a minority, 40% of the younger group. 18% of younger Gen Z's respondents are practicing Christians compared to just 8% of the older subgroup. Let me repeat that. Of the older subgroup of Gen Zers, only 8% identify as practicing Christians. Of the younger subgroup, it's 18%. That's a 10%.
There's your revival.
That's crazy.
I think you also find there's something that happened in 2020 that kind of was the defining line of this age group.
And young
defining,
people think they're immortal, and
Right.
then COVID happens,
right.
and young people are dying.
But I think that's that defining line is the younger Gen Zers were basically younger during this pandemic thing. The older ones are already well into their unbelief. And then you see the
World fall apart.
world fall apart, and you see how the world responds and how the Christians and the church responds. And I think that was my theory that I was playing around with when I read the article.
It's crazy, and when I read the article, it was really cool because I mentioned to my wife yesterday, I was like, this is nuts. Like, my Facebook page for 15 years has been diesel trucks, and I've got all the same 5,000 friends. They haven't changed, and now my Facebook page is Jesus, God, Bible quotes.
Here,
You know,
here's another paragraph to that point. The younger group of Gen Z, and you might have read this, Justin. The younger group of Gen Z has higher levels of Bible use, 34%, than the older group. Think about that. Younger Gen Zers are reading the Bible at a 7% increase than older Gen Zers, while nearly twice as many younger members of Gen Z, 22%, report seeing their Bible use increase over the past year, as opposed to older ones, 12%. Younger Gen Z members were less likely to be, quote, Bible disengaged than older Gen Z respondents, 55% to 65%. You made the comment. Are we seeing a revival, or are we seeing the early stages of an awakening? Like, what is going on?
Yes.
you don't need to go to church to find Jesus anymore. You know, you think back when we were kids in the late 80s, mid 90s, we had to go to Awana's on Wednesday night. These kids are glued to social media, and now all of a sudden Jesus is taking over social media. I mean, it is my entire feed. So they don't have to go to a place to get it now. It's in their face. It's in their hand. So something that we kind of have looked down on these kids glued to these phones, a bunch of them are finding Jesus because of it. And that's not something we had.
Well, I think you're also seeing this older group of the Gen Zers. You see everything that they're doing. Like you see, we're seeing videos come out of like the West Coast, like California and stuff, of all these young kids running these stores en masse and just stealing everything. And they all fit that profile of the older Gen Z.
So
group.
there is Into the Dust. Isn't that the title of the book? Into the Dust. There's a book written about, and it got quite a bit of notoriety. The cover of it in particular, like Jay-Z did a music video, had it on the back of his leather jacket. I think it's Into the Dust. I apologize if that's incorrect. Creighton, I think, is looking it up, but it's about nihilism, and it's an examination of the progressions of philosophical movements over time, because ultimately they're cyclical. They recycle, rinse and repeat. And one of the things, you go from absolute truth. Let's say like
In the Dust of This Planet.
In the Dust of This Planet. Thank you. Which is by whom?
I don't know. I just found the hoodie.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
I have the book. It is a terrible, laborious read. It's very, very academic. But like, if you go from absolute truth to relativism, So there are absolute truths to this idea that truth is subjective, that it's left to the individual's perspective. What's true for you is true for you. What's true for me is true for me. Even if those contradict, it doesn't mean they're not true. They're true because truth is based on perspective. The problem is that if everything is true, then you end up in a societal situation where nothing is true. And then if nothing is true, you end up with a society devoid of meaning.
If nothing is true, everything is true.
Everything
If
is
everything
true.
is true, nothing is true.
And so what is true? What is false? Like you end up with meaninglessness.
And then you have people trying to find meaning in wherever their brain takes them, which gets real weird real fast.
Well, you end up with, and that would be kind of textbook narcissism.
Yeah.
You end up with narcissism, or, and this is what Spice Daddy was alluding to, I think you see nihilism. You see, well, if there is no meaning, because there is no truth, I can do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it, and life is whatever. It's the old Dave Matthews song, I'm gonna live, do what I want, because tomorrow I'll die. Like, who cares? We'll live for the moment. Was it Carpe Diem? Seize the day?
Seize the day, or there's another famous saying that is, eat, drink, and be merry, for
Eat,
tomorrow
drink,
we
and be
die.
merry. Yeah. And so you end up, and I think we see that. We see nihilism, we see narcissism, like really in your face. Now, again, over the arc, what always seems to come out of nihilism, narcissism, that dynamic. And again, relativism is the bridge that brings us there, which leads to anarchy, by the way. Like, things get real bad societally. But then what emerges is like this return to truth. Because ultimately that's what the human heart longs for, is like, I'm in the matrix. I want truth. Like, I want something that's real. I want to taste authenticity. And Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So if people get onto a quest for truth, they'll inevitably find themselves coming to Jesus. So again, are we seeing potentially, have we seen the tide go out over the last 10, 15 years? Sure. But these ripples, is it the tsunami, a revival, an awakening? Could that be? And I think we're starting to see actual data. Now, could that be a blip? Could that be an anomaly? Could that not be real? Could your Facebook page be just specific to just the sphere? Maybe. Who knows? But if there's the slightest chance, right, that there is something that's happening, shouldn't we be all the more bold to be vocal?
Absolutely. That's why I enjoy being provocative on Facebook. If you don't start the conversation, you don't get the chance to witness to these people that are watching and following. And so sometimes you got to say things that, well, not sometimes, you got to say things that make people uncomfortable in their sin to get the conversation started. And then once you've exposed the sin and gotten them on a personal level, then you can address the sin, and then you can show them the love that is the Holy Spirit. And that's, you can't do that without ruffling feathers.
I think that there's an interesting illustration to this, and that is the fact that, like, honestly, and again, I'm going to come back to the homosexual community for illustrative purposes, but like, if there was a community that the homosexual community should be most militant towards, is it really Christianity?
Not at all. We're the only ones that love them.
No. I mean, and we were like totally cool to like play this cool. No, who really should they be militant against? It would be Islam, who is not just share like this belief that it's an abomination, but believing that it's such an abomination. I mean, there's like 80 countries that it's illegal to be gay, and they will throw you off a roof. But do you hear a word of dude, are they going after them? No. Why? And that's ultimately the question. Why? Well, it's because falsehoods have company with falsehoods. A falsehood isn't threatened by another falsehood. Why is Christianity seemingly the one religion that gets isolated and attacked? Well, it's because we stand on truth. And the one enemy of the falsehood isn't other falsehoods. They can coexist. It's the one thing that's saying, no, this is true. Second to Christianity is Judaism, because they get it half right. You know, they have half the truth, except for Jesus. Spice Daddy, I want to get you back into the conversation. You've been sitting there quietly over the last few minutes.
It's because mostly I went to the bathroom. Real quick.
I was like,
He was giving you an out.
I was segueing.
You know, I don't want.
We were professional here.
I don't want any falsehoods in the.
There was no falsehood. You have been sitting quietly.
Yeah. All right. I don't post on social media anymore. Not that I'm afraid to say anything. I guess I use it to keep up with friends overseas and my travels and stuff. But like posting, I don't know. It just kind of I don't need anybody knowing what's.
So I struggle with that. Because that's easy to do. It's easy to do. And I understand why we do that.
Mostly because I remember the time before social media. I guess it's part of being a xenial is like I have, because I didn't get Facebook until Facebook wasn't a thing. Before that, it was MySpace, and that was only like a year of that before Facebook came around.
Until porn took it over.
And
Were you cool enough to have a Zanga back in the day?
I know people that did.
I had a Zanga.
But I fit in that category of I had social media. I didn't really post. I would post stuff on social media like my Facebook and my Instagram when I was traveling and stuff like that, mostly just to let my parents know I was still alive, kind of thing. Because
Probably
it's much
important,
easier.
yeah.
It's much easier to take a bunch of pictures and just post them than just than having to
Trying to find a payphone?
Yeah,
For sure.
stuff
Oh,
like
that
to
was.
call.
And listen, man, that gets so much easier when you have kids. Like,
Right, and now it's just kind of it's more of a hassle and draining mentally to go on social media and argue with people, and which I love a good
Discussion.
I like a good discussion. If you come at me with an intelligible argument backed by facts and stuff like that, but you don't find that. You find a bunch of trolls on social media, and no matter what you say, somebody's going to come back with something, and they're just trying to bait you into arguing.
At that point, it's pearls before swine.
What does it say in the book of Proverbs? Don't argue with a fool. He'll just drag you down to his position. Yeah. And I think that's all you find on social media is just fools. And you find that most of the time. And I mean, that's basically what a sinner is somebody who's just captivated by sin is a fool. And most of us fit that category.
I like the fact that Vinny, who's very active, has been able to somehow, and I think it's a unique thing, because I what you're saying resonates. Like I would, okay, you bring up early days of social media. I remember the early days of social media, and it was like you could have, and this was more message boards, where you could have like real conversations about things.
Right.
I had real friendships.
Yeah.
On early social media.
And then like the wave of trolls came in, and it's like if you posted anything, like I want to have a conversation with people, but like the conversation gets so diluted and it's brought in the gutter by trolls that are just wanting to stroke crap, which again is not godly.
Right.
It's not Christ-like.
Facebook has really cool tools like these little 3 buttons that you click on: block, remove. I don't want to see this person again. You can clean your Facebook up, and it takes very little effort. Like mine's very tidy.
And so that's how, because going back to what I was saying, like you have been able to like take Facebook connections and conversations and translate it to face-to-face Vinny's back deck talks.
Yeah, I have people that fly from other countries to sit on my deck and smoke cigars because of Facebook posts.
Right.
And
Which is, by the way, just cool,
for
but
me,
very unique.
Facebook started out as free marketing, so I've always been in the business of growing businesses, and that's what I do. And I grow these businesses through social media, show people cool, flashy things that they want to see, and they will follow you, and you can sell them stuff. But then I realized it's not only free marketing for business, it's also free marketing for Jesus if you use it properly. And that's pretty much been my focus as far as social media goes the last 5 years. It's easy to get people to follow along with fun pictures, but when you bring up the hard topics, it's been extremely fulfilling and interesting to see the people in my friends list that will join the conversation. I'm like, I never thought that guy. Like, that guy, no way.
Right.
Like, this party animal, there's just no way he would ever sit down and have a face-to-face talk about God and a personal relationship with Jesus, and now it's happened 100 times over. So that's been...
Okay, I'm gonna give you an assignment. I want you to put some thought into this, but I want you to come up with like Facebook 101 for the Christian, and like come up with like here's a strategy where you can use this as a tool to build bridges, make connections, and share the gospel.
Already done.
All right. Well, we're going to do an episode. I think, Creighton, you agree? I think that'd be kind of an interesting episode.
You know how conferences have breakout sessions?
Right. Like this.
A lot of
one.
YouTube channels have what are essentially breakout sessions.
With the
Where you
shorts.
do, not a short because that would be, profile and whatnot. But we could do that as like a produced video for the Outlaw Radio page. You could show links and have like stuff.
Well, you seem to.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Your brain's running. You kind of.
It's one of the things that I want to get into that I haven't had the opportunity yet.
Okay. Well, we've talked for an hour and gotten to no topic that.
So
we had.
Matthias, is that where we're at? Matthias? I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah. No. So we'll have to punt that. But before we wrap up, before I give you guys a chance for final thoughts, we do have again a studio member who's been observing. He's been hanging out. He's been sitting, listening, and processing. So I want to give Robert an opportunity. No, we don't need a mic. No mic.
Push it over. You can talk loud.
No, we don't need a mic. No, this is a Bo Snerdley thing. This is the audience is not mic'd. But any questions, comments? You have to be quick because we're live.
Not on anything at the moment.
Nothing at the moment.
No, I kind of did earlier during the homosexual.
So you had a thought earlier.
Yeah.
What was the thought?
Just regarding Creighton's question about like what we do. Just like I just had a thought like as Christians we should just vote like.
So we were talking about homosexuality. And you thought about Creighton.
No, his question.
His
That's
question.
not a good joke,
His
Zachary.
question. No,
My
I
goodness.
paused and maybe the wrong point.
Just because I
There
have
was
a
a semicolon.
mustache.
There was a semicolon.
Just because I have a mustache.
So Creighton's comment, Creighton's question. What was the thought that you had?
Just like as Christians, like regarding the end result of life, we can't really do much about it, so we should just focus on the personal connections that we have with everyone.
Right, the personal connection. So I think he did a better job of maybe saying what you were saying, is that Creighton, in the context of homosexuality, again, focus on one-on-one connections and just the conversations that come. Again, I do think in this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I think that's such a great addition to the conversation, is like the easiest way to communicate truth to someone is to front load it with care. If you can communicate respect and love,
When the topic was warfare and death by 1,000 cuts, get them all one at a time.
Right.
We don't always get the opportunity to throw a bomb in the middle of the group, but you can pick the stragglers on the outside edge, one at a time.
work your way in
That's
like
it.
a wolf.
That's it.
Final thoughts, you guys. Spice Daddy, you're up.
Love Jesus, love people, tell them the truth, in love, of course, which is usually the hard part. Truth is not always, doesn't always sound loving, but if they're about to run off a cliff, then what does it matter if it sounds lovely or
So he's
not?
about
Listen,
to get hit by a truck at some point. You tackle them.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm gonna throw something in. Because like that's the argument. The argument is that if you're saying the truth, well, you need to love people. You just need to love people. Love wins, right?
Love the sin
Bobby
and hate the
Bell.
sin.
It does
Yeah.
if it's true love. Like
Yeah, love what-
Actually, I'm not talking about just true love like Disney's true love,
But you know what? And Vinny, Robert, you'll agree because you've both heard it. When you have a child and you have dropped truth, you know what that kid will like. You don't have to teach them to say it. They just will instinctively. It's a child. They'll instinctively revert to it. They will say, in the truth bomb, I don't love you anymore. Or you don't love me. Right? That's, am I wrong, Vinny?
I've not had.
You've
that
not
happen
had-
with
oh,
my
man, we-
kids.
I've encountered it.
You have
You've been
teenagers.
okay. The
I
audience,
know.
the
My
audience member,
kids.
he's resonated. This resonates.
Yeah, I got weird kids. They're like
You do have weird kids.
cherubs.
Yeah, you do have weird kids. No, I've gotten it with my
Biggest
kids.
cherubs I've ever seen.
They don't. I don't get it with me. They don't do it to me because they already know I don't love them. We're on the same page. It's like, oh, great, glad you know it. But they do it to their mother. You know, so if I go in,
Kind-hearted Jessica.
oh, if I go in and Jess is crying, it's I already know it's because either she's been accused of not loving them or they've said they don't love her. You hate me. You know, but we hear that in society. That is the inflection of a child. Because like you said, Justin, true love, rooted in truth, it will hurt. It will sting. Because I love you enough to tell you what you don't want to hear. Love stands on truth. Benny, final thoughts.
100%. I mean, I wake up every day and I ask the Holy Spirit to work through me with the people around me and let them see his love through me. So I get in arguments with people online, but I make sure that it ends with love and truth. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's going to be a cool episode.
Rule number 12 of the Vinny's Handbook of
Yeah.
online engagement. Cravon.
I thought this was a good episode.
It turned, yeah, it wasn't your topic.
No, my topic would have been a better episode, but this was a good one.
No, that's not really true. Most of the best episodes.
This is very good.
Any online feedback? We get any interactions? On the
I haven't gotten
tubes?
anything from YouTube. That might be because YouTube is jacked up and I'm not seeing the chats for some reason.
Okay.
We have a hey guys from Miss Ann. Hi, Miss Ann. It's always good to see Miss Ann. Longtime friend of the show.
It's funny that you guys have started. I think Justin, maybe it was you that brought it up the other day. That you got like a howdy or a hello, how you doing from somebody, and you didn't know them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, but no,
I'm pretty sure that was my mother.
Yeah, it was Creighton's mom. It kind of scared me there for a second.
So it was the Sunday he taught. She came
Right.
up, was like, "Hey, Justin,
Yeah, you got two comments on YouTube.
why don't you just go ahead and
One from a Jennifer Abbott.
Oh yeah, that's
Alright.
Jennifer,
We should
longtime
not be
friend of the show.
She says we should not be peacekeepers and stand by while this happens.
let's leave last names out."
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Rookie
This
mistake.
is why I don't do social media stuff. And then an Allie says, so basically like a Facebook group place.
I would have to see where that comment was. I don't know what she was referencing. It also might help to know which alley. I can think of. like
Listen, if
three
you
in
if
my
you ever
life.
want to submit topics for the show, you can do so. Creighton, let them know where.
PopeCreighton@gmail.com.
Which I still think is the greatest email address.
We should also
Ever.
do like a either a giveaway or something where you get to sit in the audience member chair. You can apply like Pope Creighton at Gmail.
That would be cool.
Not a bad idea. Let's make that official. Do that again.
I think that's a great idea. Entry fee is $300. My
Entry
Cash App
fee.
is the $, and I have to look up my Cash App because I don't know what it is.
You did not. You fumbled that.
I know. I realized halfway through I didn't know my Cash App. by
Yeah,
heart.
you were on the 5-yard line going for the end zone and got blown up.
But yeah, I think that'd be cool to have like just if you want to be on the show or like not on the show, but if you kind of want to sit in, just I'd say send Creighton an email and
Or comment in the comments below the video if
Yeah.
you're watching the live stream.
I will also say, speaking of comments, Walter, who's our friend from South Africa. Again,
Good guy.
People don't know this, but we're an international show. We have people all over the world watching. Anyway, Walter He sent him posts. Did you see it, Crate? I sent it to you, or pointed it out. He sent a lengthy thing on. It wasn't last week, but maybe the week before. About I had said we were talking about cessationalism. We were talking about the Holy Spirit, and it wasn't cessationalism. But I was talking about
Gifts of the Spirit.
I was talking about gifts of the Spirit, but no, I was talking about I opened up and said like I can sometimes be too stoic.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah,
And the expression of the Holy Spirit, and like that's something that I'm trying to learn. Like that's why we're going to do this Pneuma service, and like et cetera, et cetera. And that was the whole episode was on the Holy Spirit. And he sent this real nice note about how he's never met us, never been here. I don't know if our shirt's ever gotten there. But
last I talked to him, it had not.
It had not. Again, a guy from South Africa that's become our friend online. But he was like, I just feel like family. Yeah, I feel like it's just neat to have the vulnerability, for you to say that. And it's like, man, I resonated with that. And I told him, I did reply. I said, hey, would love to meet you one day. I know we will, whether it's here, there, in the air. It'll be nice to put the face to the name.
Yes.
And I was like, Walter, you're family. So, how cool would that be, Walter? South Africa is kind of a dicey place to be.
I think all of Africa.
Yeah.
I'm down for going.
No, I'm not saying go. I'm saying, hey, bro, why don't you fly into Atlanta and hang out with us?
I will go there for some biltong.
Okay, the Spice Daddy's gonna go on his thing. We're out of here. We got to do this. I'm hitting the music. Vinny, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
Spice Daddy, glad you're here. Pope
Always
Creighton,
glad.
thank you for being here. You've been watching or listening to the Outlaw Radio Show. With that in mind, if you were listening to our podcast, which is released on Thursdays, Apple, Google, Spotify, looking into Amazon is doing a thing. We might post also on Amazon. Thank you for listening. Check out the live stream Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Very cool. Put a face to a name. You can watch this live. If you're watching live, again, you're watching the recording of a podcast that gets released tomorrow. Check out the podcast. Very easy to share the podcast. Sometimes people don't have, especially friends, the opportunity to sit and to watch an episode. But at the same time, it's often a lot easier to listen. And so podcast is a great way to share episodes, etc. So with all that being said, thank you for joining us. God bless. See you guys next week.